The battlefield. Put your best foot forward, fists to the fire. We are at war. Like it or not, the battle for America is raging from within our own nation. The factions are clearly defined. The establishment is the main opposition to the American people, self-serving, seeking to remove all liberty from a free nation. The pro-American citizen is the main opposition to the establishment, the resistance, embodied in the image of our founders, embracing the ideology of a patriot, country above all else. The corporate conglomerate serves as a propaganda machine for its establishment master, wanting complete ownership of thought, forced censorship and conformity. The influence from our foreign adversaries, single-minded point of action, the complete and utter destruction of the United States. They work in collaboration with the establishment and the media propaganda machine to make the resistance feel pressure, small and isolated. We are attacked at every level in this battlefield. Engage, pursuit, and canalized into a segmented isolate of the greater whole is the narrative of the establishment. They do this to further divide and isolate all dissidents to their primary message of conformity, which so many give without question. A complete betrayal to their nation. In this case, the blinding ignorance of ill-informed and oblivious. Why do this to our country? The answer is not changed at any course throughout the history of man. Amassing of power for individual gain, collection of wealth for the benefit of the system that seeks to remove all sovereignty from nations and replace the global model of overlord elite establishment and their product of servitude, the people, who will act on their every will and intent. Why are so many Americans so easy to fool into siding with the establishment, which continually attacks their people, the national ideology and inherent nature of a nation? I believe it is progressive deconstruction of individual will. In essence, they have broken a large percentage of the population who will obey without question or concern for their fellow Americans. This is, of course, a matter of varied opinion. It is easy to say that all national debate falls within specific party lines, and their loyalty is to the party that follows their thought ideology. Of course, in reality, there is no party. There is only the vessel of the establishment against the freedoms and prosperity of the American people. We may never be able to convince the entirety of the population of this. In the long run, it doesn't really matter. Free volition is determinative by the individual. What many take out of context is that love of country has nothing to do with protection of a corrupted system of oppression. We seek for the benefit of all Americans in accord with our constitutional principles. Any and all other confatuation is merely noise, designed to detest and distract focus. Our fight for this nation is generational. At the macro level, it has been occurring for longer than most of our lifetimes. The steady decline of our constitutional republic. A steady wearing down process. A mistake made recently by the establishment has been to accelerate this timeline of deconstruction, namely brought about by our champion. He confronted the establishment on their most fundamental level, attacking the roots of the problem with our country, and in effect he awakened the sleeping patriots across the nation, a truly magnificent beast of energy. When properly focused in course and resolve. And herein lies the main problem to why this battlefield is so difficult to navigate. The establishment has one huge benefit to the resolve of the American people. Their focus on the agenda to eradicate the U.S. is laser focused. All energy and effort is pushed into furthering this purpose, of which they have become increasingly effective. We, the people of this country, are and have always been scattered, self-consumed and self-absorbed with our own ideology, instead of united against our gravest enemy, the establishment. And of course, this is by design. Small numbers can be controlled, suppressed, diluted, labeled as crazy people, racist, or insurgents, the enemies of the establishment. The constant reinforcement by the media propaganda machine, able to beat the installed narrative into the weakness of conviction with relative ease. It is simpler to let the establishment roll in whatever way they see fit, without concern for the people of this country. It seems our uninvolvement will only begin to grasp attention when our children and families are rounded up and put into re-education camps to reprogram patriotism for the remaining dissidents to the establishment. By the time this happens, it will be too late. We already see the beginning effects of the rise of the Fourth Right. It starts simple, peerage of readjustment needed for the mass to accept the programming, suppression, and opposition. What we experience now with the self-labeled cancel culture, a mechanism to make the compliant feel nervous about dissidents and begin to change patriotic Americans into the racist insurgency destined to destroy America. Nothing could be further from the truth. Of course, what does the truth matter? As long as our masters tell us what and how to believe. We are losing this battle. The establishment is destroying our buildings, our media, our families, and our self-identity. Can we win against the establishment? This really depends on the will of the people and the ability to channel and focus effort and energy. As of right now, no. A hard truth to hear. Consider the following. The establishment controls information, finance, all systems and subsystems, elections. We have very few outlets left to rise up against this monster that is permanently crushing our nation. We have our voice, when we are allowed to use it, ineffectively and not in significant effect to change mindset. Our single greatest source of strength lies in our arms. By constitutional design, the Second Amendment was created to protect the First Amendment. They have been unable to take away American ability to possess firearms. They will continue to try and may eventually succeed. But here's the kicker. If they succeed, it will be willingly. They will continue to beat their message of conformity against the American people until they lose the will to fight for their country and finally submit. So what happens if we decide to stop being governed? Nothing. If it is an isolated act, it would take the sheer audacity of the American people to break the will of the establishment. And as of yet, we have not been able to apply even a portion of the needed pressure to the establishment that would be required. This cannot be overstated. We now have selective enforcement of law, direct proof of treason, sedition, espionage, and virtually every other crime we have laws for have been committed by the establishment, with nothing being done, no accountability, no repercussions. The system is so ingrained into the lives of every American that even remarking against the activities of the establishment is labeled as hate speech, and the individual making the allegation a radical insurgent racist. Just the right combination of emotional triggers to push people against that individual. We have an astronomical mountain to climb to restore this nation, and it will be met by resistance in every single word, thought, and action. There is no other way to view it. The resolve of the establishment is absolute, and if you oppose that will, they will try to crush you by any and all means. So it is a question of what matters more: quiet, forced compliance to the master, unidentified slavery, or your country. Unfortunately for most, the answer will be submission. Possibly a few will rise to the occasion and engage the enemy of America in the field of battle for the preservation of our nation, our founding, and any hope we have to remain a free people.